Hello everybody, my name's Novi and welcome back to the channel. Now I know I haven't done predictions on this channel in a very long time. Honestly, I remember just wanting to switch up what I was doing and try something a bit newer, but this show just looks way too special not to cover. Not just that, I'd say 1 out of the 9 total matches on this card are truly predictable, which is amazing because it's an issue that AEW has struggled with in the past. And finally, maybe most importantly, I'm gonna get to see the show live and in living color, which means it already holds a special place in my heart. With all that said, leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for weekly videos every single Saturday, just talking graps. What was originally a Meat Madness match has now turned into an All-Star Scramble, which is a very loose usage of the term All-Star in all honesty. Not that I expected anyone insane in this match or anything, but the All-Star that we got on World's End was much higher end than this one was. But that really doesn't matter because this should still just be a fun time, especially if they add ladders into the mix, given that the usual Face of the Revolution ladder match isn't on the card already. I'm not sure if Jericho would survive a ladder match, but I would be interested in a ladder match for sure. But if it just stays a normal 8-man and the winner gets a world title shot, which I'm pretty sure they mentioned on Dynamite this week, again, that's fine with me. It definitely does need a little bit of juice to give it that much more weight because, you know, it just doesn't really have too much behind it compared to everything else that's on this card, which, you know, it would have been hard to get it to that level anyways. As for the winner, I feel like there's a lot of directions that they could go with this. It feels like any of these guys could really use that big win to push them up the card, and since the match is for an AEW world title shot, I'm pretty sure they said specifically that world title, I'd say that a few of them are a lot more likely than others. Maybe most of all is probably Wardlow, which I can't say that I'd necessarily be excited for, but I would let it play out because his promo on Dynamite, I think 2 weeks ago, was actually enjoyable. Maybe they give it to Hook and Samoa Joe retains, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on. I could see that happening. Hook was calling for a rematch in their feud, and that closing promo, that was very awkward. But if I had the chance to pick the winner, I would pick Powerhouse Hobbs, who did get a no DQ match with Sammy Guevara on Dynamite 2 weeks ago that was very good. That match really felt like a prove you're better than the storyline that you're in match, and I think both guys really did. Talking about the storyline that they're in, I feel like the Don Callis family is in imminent danger. And, you know, Powerhouse Hobbs would need a big singles win to jumpstart his singles career again. If I had to think more logically and not with the heart, more with the mind, I'm gonna go with Wardlow because he just seems like their guy. Maybe one last shot at the world title will reinvigorate him or maybe fire him up a little bit more. I don't know. I just hope that he shows out in that match because he really needs to. This TNT Championship match is not the one that I was expecting just a couple of weeks ago, but it is very welcome nonetheless. Daniel Garcia has been on an insane rise post-Continental Classic, and this feels like the culmination of all that to me. In spite of all of his booking pre-Continental Classic, in spite of all the shitty storylines that he was in, he got over time and time again, and then became the heart of the Continental Classic, and now he's the most over that he's ever been. So I say they take the opportunity to capitalize on all of that momentum, capitalize on all of the fan support he has, and crown Daniel Garcia new TNT champion. As for the other man in the match, Christian Cage, I've loved his reign so much, but it feels like it's reached its natural conclusion. I think not crowning Daniel right here would kind of run the risk of his reign becoming a bit more of a drag, which is something that happens to a lot of AEW reigns, and it's not something I want to see happen to Christian. I definitely would have been saying the same thing had it been Adam Copeland who he was facing on this show, who I want to mention here too. I genuinely don't know what he's going to be up to. I could easily see him costing either guy the belt and turning one way or the other, but it's going to be very interesting nonetheless. Either way, I think he's going to be involved in some capacity, and I think he's going to stay as a face. I know a lot of people have been clamoring for him to turn heel and join up with Christian, but I just can't really see that happening. He has too much fan support at the moment, and it'd be pretty hard to get guys to boo him. So at the end of the day, I'm picking Daniel Garcia to get crowned in Greensboro, and if you see me up in the stands, I'm going to be doing the dance. So maybe the camera pans to me or something, and you get to see, you know, some moves. The AEW International Championship match is kind of the one outlier on a very unpredictable show. I'm a big fan of Orange Cassidy, and I really enjoyed his first international title reign for a lot of different reasons. I've really tried to get into this run, I've really tried to get into the matches, but every one just feels like a shittier version of what we would have gotten in his first reign. Then on the matches too, I'm just completely spent on OC's style of match. They're usually very enjoyable, but now they have such an understood structure to them that it just makes for slogfest TV defenses. And before I wrap this up and give the very obvious prediction, I do want to say that's not OC's fault. It's more the booking, which just hasn't really been the best, and he really shouldn't have gotten this reign in general, but it's definitely not OC's fault. But like I said, the predictable prediction, Roderick Strong is taking this belt right here. And I'm excited for that. It just feels like a new and exciting flavor of match and defense and all these sort of things, if nothing else. When this Ospreay Takeshita match got announced, I legitimately jumped out of my chair and just started screaming about how awesome it would be to my girlfriend. It has legitimate match of the year potential if given the time, and I have no doubt that they will be given the time. Their styles just feel like perfect fits for one another, and I have no doubt that this match is going to absolutely rule. I'd probably venture to guess it's match of the night. As for the winner, I could see a very good argument for Takeshita getting the win, just to add more credibility, maybe shoot him up the card, and getting a win over Will Ospreay is absolutely massive. But it is Ospreay's first AEW match, and I think if nothing else, that's why he gets the win. What's also very enticing is what might happen after the match with the Don Callis family. I'd say Ospreay absolutely kills Don with a hidden blade and then gets jumped by Takeshita and Hobbs and maybe Fletcher if he's in town. It's a 2-on-1 scenario though, and obviously Will Ospreay is gonna need some help. And I think a lot of people might guess it will be Fletcher. But I'm saying we hear some rain. I'm saying we hear a coin fall on the floor. This is where I see Kazuchika Okada debuting in All Elite Wrestling. Even if the Don Callis family feud is fucking horrendous right now, I'd say that this pairing would breathe new life into it and would get a lot of people more interested in it and probably fast track the, wrap it up section of it. Having Ospreay and Okada team up really does feel like when Kenny and Okada teamed up after Wrestle Kingdom last year, which was just an amazing visual. I think we're going to get that same kind of feeling from this. It's one of my more out there shouts and predictions, but I'm confident in it, so that's what I say happens. I say Ospreay pins Takeshita, he gets jumped, and Okada comes to the rescue. This FTR versus Blackpool Combat Club doesn't really require much analysis, to be honest. Both teams are just going to hit each other as hard as possible, and it's probably going to be pretty good. An interesting part to talk about is if they add a stipulation, and I would be down for that, but you really have to pick the right one here. We are shutting every mention of the Iron Man match down. We do not want to see that. I just don't think it would work on this card at all. So my guess is they just do a bloody brawl, which would be so fitting from these two teams, and would make sense on a card like this. Whatever it is though, I'd say FTR scores the win. I think they could just use it a bit more considering they are a legitimate tag team. A lot of people are looking at this women's world title match with a lot of cautious excitement, and I think that's very understandable. Toni still hasn't completely found her footing wrestling with this gimmick, and it does kind of lead to her leaning into it a little bit too much from time to time, which could easily cause this match to be extremely disastrous considering it's the only women's match on the card right now. I'd say that the majority of people, myself included, just want to see Toni and Deonna have the match that they could have. A match that just pushes all the gimmick stuff aside for a while and focuses on the wrestling, which both women are very good at. And I'd say, based on the story that they're telling, that it's gonna go that way. I've seen some push for Deonna to win the title here, and while I am on that train and would really be excited to see it, I think Toni retains. It really just comes down to how the boss Toni feels about her, and it's clear that he loves her and he loves this gimmick and really wants to build this division around Toni. So that's how I see that going. I'm still not sure how I feel about Mercedes Moné coming into that kind of division, but I am optimistic that they could make it work. If we're being real though, it does not matter who wins this match. It could be Deonna, it could be Toni. It doesn't matter because they're dropping the belt within a month to Mercedes Moné. During the intro of this video, I mentioned that the show has a special place in my heart because I'm going to be there live. But it's not just that. It's also because I'm going to get to see the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, a wrestler I have loved since I was 12 watching Raw before school, every morning wrestle live. He's one of the few guys I remember really loving as a kid, and he holds a special place in my fandom for that reason, and he's also just my favorite wrestler right now, so, you're always going to be at the top of the list, and I've never seen him live, And so I'm finally going to get to live that dream, and I couldn't be more excited because it's just fucking cool. It's the American Dragon. I mean, come on, man. I feel really lucky too that I didn't get it on one of those random collisions that I went to, because what a fucking match this is going to be. This feels like it's going to define how both men's years are going to continue to go. On the one hand, you have Eddie Kingston, who has worked his ass off for these championships and loves New Japan and loves Ring of Honor and probably loves holding a Triple Crown belt as much as anything in the world. So I could pretty easily see him continuing on being the king of the bums that holds gold. Then you have Bryan Danielson, who is in his last full-time year, and he's chasing gold for what could be the very last time. And that's the reason I think that Tony Khan finally tells him to shut his fucking mouth and hold some championship gold. Dragon going around and defending a championship in all of his bucket list matches that he's been having lately just kind of feels right. But I don't want it to seem like I wouldn't be down for an Eddie Kingston win, and I could definitely see that happening with how Dynamite played out. Eddie getting choked out by Danielson at the end of the trios match is a really big deal, but if there's anyone who could kind of like purposely break that stigma, it is Bryan Danielson. Him finally overcoming the Dragon once and for all would make me so happy, and I would cheer just as loud in person, but it kind of feels like Dragon's match to lose. So I'm going with him to finally hold an AEW championship, the Triple Crown belt, and yeah, I'm probably going to lose my mind. One of the very best championship builds in AEW history finally reaches its conclusion right here. This match was genuinely the reason why I wanted to make this video, because every single guy has their own individual and unique case to win that is so grounded and so feasible. We'll start with the liar, the guy who's been absolutely losing his mind over the past few months, obsessing over Swerve Strickland, Hangman Adam Page, who has been a fantastic character. He's one of the very best at wearing his emotions on his face and just being an incredible actor, and it's made this heel persona work so well. He is the AEW babyface, and he was getting booed on Dynamite big time. That's a clear sign that this has worked. He also deserves props for pulling off one of the greatest works that I can specifically remember, because he had everyone fooled that he fucked his ankle up, so again, props to him for that, because that was awesome. And more on that, just let yourself get worked. It makes everything so much more fun, and so many people fight against it, but it made it so much fun to watch on Dynamite. I could absolutely see him winning here, but only through nefarious means, probably to spite Swerve, just so he can, keep his promise of Swerve never taking that championship. Speaking of Swerve, he's the fucking guy right now, y'all. His organic growth and ascension all the way up to the top of the card should really be celebrated and recognized, because it is just so rare for it to happen like that, and he has made it all work. Crowds love him, his wrestling backs it up, and maybe most of all in his case here, he might just be due. But if anyone has something to say about someone being due, it's Samoa Joe, who wants to shut down both guys and prove that all roads go through him and him alone. I'm not gonna lie, that AEW World Championship fits perfectly on the big man's shoulder, and I and a lot of people are not ready for it to not be there. He only defended that belt one time, which is kind of a travesty thinking back on it, and that's kind of the reason why I could see them continuing his reign and just giving him more defenses, letting him be the guy for a little bit longer. And now that I've given reasons for all guys to winning, I do have to, predict in the predictions video, and I'm kind of annoyed about it because I've been bouncing this around in my head for, since it's been announced. But I think I'm finally putting my stamp on Swerve Strickland becoming the new AEW World Champion. Like I said before, it just feels like his time. It feels like everything has culminated into this moment, and I don't want to deny him any longer and risk having his support going away. Strike while the iron is hot, capitalize on his momentum, and make him the biggest star in your company. Make him make history, because he fucking deserves it. There's a lot of reasons why AEW feels like it's going to enter a new era, and this would be kind of the perfect way to enter it, with Swerve being on top of the promotion, so that's who I'm gonna go with. Of course, we're talking about what is truly the selling point of the show last, Sting's last match. This match is going to be so emotional, it's going to be really heartwarming, And I think it's gonna be really fucking insane too. Sting has said leading up that this match is gonna make fans want to buy the tape, which is kind of code for he's definitely doing a shooting star press through a table, I'd say. Then you have Darby Allin, who is almost guaranteed to take the nastiest bump you ever saw for the love of the game, and his buddy Sting. And if you thought there were any better opponents than the Young Bucks for this match, Dynamite proved you wrong. Instead of just it being a thank you Sting, a celebration of Sting match, the Young Bucks are coming in with an actual incentive and genuine reason to go after this team, even if they didn't hold the tag belts. I'm simply so excited to see what these four come up with for Sting's final send-off, and I have no doubt that it'll be everything that we all want and more. As for the winner, I think we all know Sting is the kind of person who wouldn't mind laying down for his final match, and even if Tony Khan might want him to take the win here, it's not going to be him. He's going to lay down for the Young Bucks. This is the first older veteran guy that they're going after, and that's kind of the whole point of these characters, and they need the win to establish that. Plus, they need those belts. We got to see that 2021 run part 2. I need it more than anything. And finally, they're going to get to say that they retired Sting until the end of time, and it'll be so insufferable and so amazing. But really, if we're being honest, the winner does not matter because Sting is going to be the focus. When Sting is standing there in the ring for the very last time as a full-time in-ring performer, I don't expect to see a dry eye in the house. It's going to be special, it's going to be a moment, and we're probably going to remember it for the rest of time, so I'm so glad I get to be there live. It's going to be awesome. But with all the announced matches so far out of the way, I haven't watched Rampage yet, I'm recording this before then, I think we should try to predict maybe some pre-show stuff. I'd say there's a decent chance of getting a Julia title defense, and whoever it ends up being, I would probably say that she loses there. I hope that it's Willow, because I've been building that story, and also Willow rules, and I think it would be perfect to have her as the co-champion to Mercedes as the main champion. Aside from that, though, I don't think I can really predict what they're going to do, because nothing really seems so pointed, and nothing really seems like it's made for that, so I just hope to do something cool. Hopefully, maybe they bring in some CMLL guys. No complaints here. Maybe some New Japan guys. Who knows? But with all that out of the way, that's going to do it for today's video, everybody. I hope you all have enjoyed this video. I hope my predictions end up being right because then I can victory lap and say I'm the man and I got everything correct. But leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 500 subscribers, so anything helps and I'd really appreciate it. But if you have anything that you want to say, whether you want to call my predictions stupid as hell, or of course you want to call me the smartest person in the room, maybe as you should because these are going to be right, leave a comment down below. And also one more thing, I know that I am not anyone in this space, but if by some chance, any one of you see me at Revolution, please come up to say hi because it would boost my ego immensely. With all that out of the way and something that will probably never happen, it's been Novi. Much love to you all. Sting forever. Peace.